Welcome back to Smashy Business Daily. I'm Lubna Hamdan.
And I'm Richard Fitzgerald.
And Reddit is in the news. Users aren't optimistic about its up-and-coming IPO, expected to be valued at $5 billion. Talk about an overvaluation. And then Snapchat's Dubai office has unfortunately been affected by a 10% cut in staff, which sounds like a little bit, but it's actually 500 people. And then UAE employees are losing over $3,500 a year in lost expenses. We find out why. Richard, how are you?
I'm good. I was just checking a valuation of Snap just to see when we talk about Reddit. I'm really good. We were both down at Sharjah Entrepreneurship Festival.
Yeah.
Which happened over the weekend in a new venue this year, in the Science Technical Buildings, and
which are so impressive,
right?
Wow,
really?
Wow.
And you know what I mean? Like, I think it was just activated really well, right? Like they had 4 different areas. They had a creative stage, a startup stage, an impact stage, and sustainability. And like once you knew your way around, you were kind of like, wow, they've done this nicely. Everywhere you went was a mix of like networking and like interesting layout of talks. And I was only going to go down there. I was doing a workshop on compelling storytelling narratives in an MR area on the Saturday. And then I enjoyed it so much, I went back on the Sunday. It was that good.
I missed you there, though. I didn't get to see you there. But have you been to the billion follower summit in Dubai?
I've been to similar. I didn't go this year.
You didn't go this year because I actually thought that Sharjah had done a better job at SEF than they did at the billion follower summit because that one was a bit.
We'll be jealous of Sharjah for sure with that, but no, tell us more.
Well,
yeah,
I feel like this year is Sharjah's year. They're doing so much. I mean, Sheikh Abu Duid is really amazing. You know, I don't know if you've been to the House of Wisdom. It's a huge library. They do a lot of workshops there as well. Kind of has the same theme of like sustainability, you know, indoor plants, you know, glass ceilings, natural light, etc. It's
Sharjah Light Festival is on the moment. There's a lot of pop-ups, and you know they got kind of it's an emirate that's got a good connection with its roots. Like you kind of feel that like it really understands what it is, you know.
It's the hub of culture.
Yeah. Obviously, we love Dubai, and Dubai is a business capital, and we're doing this business show in Dubai. But I think it's interesting that you brought up the billion followers summit, and they are different things, right? If what would we say, a government entity, I think it's backed by kind of New Media Academy and Visioneers. If that sort of arm decides to invest in content creators and influencers, I think it's a good approach, because if they didn't, this is the future. The kids and influencers are media today, right? And if someone didn't sort of attempt to get this right, it would be like not doing a film festival in the 1930s, like not doing the Oscars. Like, so fair play to Dubai, and you will have different views on it as it sort of crafts itself. But you've got to think that SEF, Sharjah Entrepreneurs Festival, or SEF, 2017 was the first year. They asked Step Conference, Ray Dargam and his team to do it with them, and Step regret not doing a JV because it looked like Step, but it was sort of, and then they worked with another group, I forget the name of the other group, and now they do it in-house. They have over 200 volunteers working at SEF to pull all this together. And in previous years, they paid top dollar, I think $250,000 to bring Gary Vaynerchuk in 2019 or so as headline speaker. Right. And this year, for different reasons, they decided to invest that more locally. They did have a few international, but it was a real flavor. And I think it's a coming of age of these festivals and these entrepreneurship events. In the next few weeks, we've got Step in Dubai on the 21st of Feb. Lubna will be there. Smashy Business Daily if you want interviews. We always partner with Step, and that's in Dubai. And then the following week, you have the first ever web summit in an Arab world in Doha in Qatar. And then the following, which is sold out at 12,000. They have about 15,000 delegates there. And then the following week, first week of March, just before Ramadan, you have Leap in Saudi, which is in its 3rd year, which reached 170,000 delegates, same size as CES, double what Web Summit is in Lisbon. So back to back, we've got this real, kind of coming together and festivals around entrepreneurship.
Yeah, it's really incredible. I mean, it's quite impressive to see all these events, and we're going to be at all of them, correct?
All of them, yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
okay. So,
how was
you're watching the right
SEM?
show.
Yeah, we follow Smash Your Business. This podcast basically will be going out every day during all of them. So, but how was your interviews at?
You know what? I think the most interesting interview I had was with Mazen, the co-founder of House of Pops, and he said he told me one line. He said, because we were talking about how important corporate experience is when starting a small company. So he worked for Unilever. And his wife, who is the co-founder, worked in hospitality. And now they have House of Pops, which are, basically fruit-based popsicles, no additives, etc. And they're doing really well. They're expanding everywhere. It's quite the success story. And I told him, I asked him, I said, how much of a difference did it make that you had corporate experience? And he said, you know what? It really makes the world of a difference because you have all these kids who want to be their own bosses. They leave university, they drop out of school, they think they're going to be the next, Jeff Bezos, etc. But actually, that's a few and far in between those kinds of success stories. So he said it was really important, and he told me one line that just stuck in my head. He said, "You need to be in love with solving the problem, not the solution." Because you're always going to be having challenges and problems, so you need to be obsessed with the actual problem and solve the
you need to be in the weeds. You need to be in the trenches, dealing with things as they come at you.
Yeah, not just the solution,
not just a big thing of like how to somewhere that you might never get to. Because,
because also think about it, when you launch a product, it has to be flexible, right? And I feel like even with Smashy Business Daily, whether it be at the show or the social channels, every day we're kind of trying something new. We need to, so you always have to solve problems, right?
Yeah. It's interesting because Stephen Bartlett was obviously a big draw on the Sunday at 11 on the main stage, and there's big lines outside, and he's a very impressive guy. I don't listen to his podcast, Diary CEO. I'm not one of the 50 million monthly downloads that podcast gets, right? Yeah. But I do really like how he's built that show. And I think there's over 20 full-time people doing one episode a week. Like, it's a full-on media brand now. He's got 2 books out, and the edits and the trailers and the stuff that he does is really good. I think it's too British centric. And I said this to one of the organizers that we need more of him over here, because, even loving it when he was chatting, he was sort of first name dropping entrepreneurs, and I was kind of like, cool, but they're your British fishbowl people. Like, he's like, oh, Josh from Fuel, and I'm kind of like, no one knows who that is. No one knows who he is.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah, and it's just like that's in your little fishbowl of your little thing over there. Those 30, 60 million, whoever they are, bye bye. And it's a little bit like that. But the other thing is, he's quite self-aware, and he's only 31. He's really impressive, and he come out I did have notes. He came out with a lot of good stuff. And shout out to Lulu Kassem, who interviewed him. So Conversations with Lulu, she did such a good job. She's been building up her podcasts and interviews over the years, and she did a really good job interviewing him. But he said something like he dropped out of school and then out of university. And as much to kind of say that, he believes in education, but not the education system. But I'm kind of on the other side of that. I think the education system mightn't be perfect, but there's a bit of discipline in finishing a 3 or 4 year degree. And Absolutely. If you study engineering, you think in a certain way. If you study journalism, you think in a certain way. If you study economics like I did, you think in a certain way. And I wouldn't dismiss that just because you didn't find your feet there, and the follow on for that as well, it's to your point about Mazen from House of Pops. It's like some people will dismiss the corporate world. I'm going to quit corporate. It's not for me. And other people like him will go, no, I'm so glad I did it because it's helped me do the rest.
Exactly, absolutely. You know what? It's just like it really applies to every industry. It's just like when you go into art. It's not like Picasso didn't learn the basics of art. You have to learn how to hold a brush. You have to learn, color theory, etc.
Absolutely. I was watching a clip from Cillian Murphy, a guy from Ireland who's up for Oscars at the moment with Oppenheimer. But those actors, they're not just like gift of the gab, Irish crack, like good accents, good looking or whatever. No, they don't get their first movie roles until they're 40 because they do 50. Like I've seen them in London. Some of my friends did it. Them that like we think investment banking is long hours in London. No, like drama school. Like anyone who goes to drama school and theater. Yeah. It's brutal.
Theater is so much more difficult than shooting a movie like Oppenheimer, right? Because that's where the real acting takes place.
So true. And like they really like they have no social life. They do hours and hours and hours of like different diction, different phonetics, different things. Like they get into character, they learn every line and they don't get paid much. It's like it's artistic profession. It's creative industry.
Absolutely. I think let's bring that back into the world of entrepreneurship because we have seen startups fail so many times. You know, I'll tell you, like, even though I had 8 years experience in a corporate and then experiences here and there, like at an agency, etc., when I launched my business, which lasted for 8 months for various reasons, it failed for various reasons.
1 month for every year experience.
Yeah.
If you did 20 years in corporate, you would have lasted nearly 2 years.
No, but you know what? Like, jokes aside, I knew that I wasn't ready to open a company. I did it anyway. You know, my dad tried to push me, you know, be an entrepreneur, you can do it. I knew I wasn't ready. I knew I needed different corporate experience or maybe more experience. I don't know. But yeah.
Things are sometimes about timing, but I think you know, that knowledge will compound and definitely, you know, and it's that self-awareness as well about before, during, and after.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely. And hey, you know what? I'm here doing this show, so can't ask for anything
running
better.
it yourself. I'm a side gig now.
Right. Reddit users, they're not optimistic about the up-and-coming IPO. So Reddit, the social media platform, it's kind of infamous, isn't it? Everyone loves it and hates it at the same time. It's great. It's such good fun. So Reddit has been advised to target at least a $5 billion valuation.
So Reddit basically launched 17 years ago. Alexis Ohanian, I think he's Armenian name, but
that is an Armenian name.
Yeah, so he's married to Serena Williams, and
I saw his masterclass actually.
Did you take his masterclass?
Yeah,
was it good?
It's brilliant.
What was it on?
Brilliant. Gosh, I forgot the title. But
was it on entrepreneurship or was it on crypto?
It was about entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
It was building a brand, something like that.
Yeah. Quite an impressive guy. I think Reddit have gone through 17 years and, you know, there's so many different things I could bring up here. There's a whole conversation happening now about the open web, whether it exists in the future or not.
Yeah.
And the idea of like, you know, www and being able to comment online and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So Web 2.0 is obviously sort of coined by Tim O'Reilly in 2004. And that's kind of at the time when the social networks, and Reddit's one of those. It's not exactly a Wikipedia, but it's more like open and commenting and things like that. They've changed it a bit. 17 years, they haven't turned a profit. Mm-hmm. It's interesting you said that the 5 billion valuation was overvaluated. When, so Snapchat, when it went public in 2017, it got a 60 times multiple based on a certain valuation, not profit. Reddit is going now at 6 times. So it shows the change in era and the sentiment around social networks. Social networks are not in a good zone right now, apart from Facebook, which since we did the last episode, their share price keeps going up.
Yeah.
But like, so Snapchat today is valued at nearly 30 billion. And their share price, since they let go, and we'll talk about this, their share price is up a lot. It's up to $17 a share, and it's been down at about it's up 10% in the last week. It's been down to like, you know, less than $10 for a couple of years.
But revenue is down, and they've just got staff, right? Which we'll get to.
We'll get to. But I think the whole conversation around like the valuations on these social networks and stuff like that, like, and the funny things you're going to bring up is the comments about Reddit. Yeah.
So let's go through those. One user said, "I know what I'll be shorting in the future."
Yeah.
Shorting, just in case you guys don't know, is when you go against the stock, so you bet on its failure, basically. Which is great. It's also good fun, right? Have you seen the Big Short, the movie?
Yeah.
It's pretty good. Someone else said Reddit is going to suck 2 years after going public. Reddit is going to change. It's not going to be for the better once shareholders get involved. It never ends well. Is Reddit even profitable? No. It's all downhill from here. RIP Reddit.
Yeah, I think that last one there is kind of alludes to the fact that the people on Reddit are the ones that like to be the ones who talk about this stuff. Like the Wall Street Bets subreddit drove the AMC and all that shares. There's a whole movie on it about like meme stocks, right? It all came from a subreddit.
Yeah.
And so people on Reddit, more so than Twitter, were the ones to drive up this meme stocks.
Yeah.
And now Reddit is the meme stock, and there's people on it themselves, and they're not. You would think that a community would drive the stock up, but actually the subreddits are against Reddit going public because it's selling out to the corporate world, I guess.
Exactly. Do you think they would be selling out?
I don't think they'd be selling out. I think their problem is the fact that they're not able to sell. Like they're not able to turn a profit. They've redesigned. They've tried subscription. You know, it's one of these ones. It's like when Sam Altman was deciding whether OpenAI or ChatGPT should be profitable or non-for-profit. Like Jimmy Wales always kept Wikipedia as a non-for-profit, and people need to decide. Like I think, you know, Alexa Hanian isn't involved anymore, but like fascinating. I was in Riyadh recently, and there's a guy called Crowley, I forget his first name. He set up Foursquare around this time of all these platforms, and then it became Swarm, and then he gave up on it. At the Formula E event in Riyadh, one of the girls in the team, she's from Jeddah, Jude, and I said, "Is that Swarm? Is that the revamped thing, Foursquare?" And 60 people had checked in. Right, so people are still using these apps in a different way, but Foursquare is not profitable. It's not listed. No one cares about it.
Right.
And sometimes I feel like, you know, I was talking to my friend today. There's a headline on The Economist this morning saying Musk is down, Zuck is up. Everything that Musk has touched in the last few years has gone down, whereas everything Zuck has touched has gone up, right? And sometimes I feel like Reddit and needs a Zuckerberg, right? Like, and Foursquare needs a Zuckerberg. It needs this sort of person to not go into politics, to not get distracted, to really sort of believe in the product and the value, but also understand the commercial side.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be interesting to see where it goes from here, because I do think it's sad that, you know, companies like X, formerly Twitter, everyone keeps calling it Twitter, by the way. I think that rebranding was just
complete disaster.
Complete disaster.
Yeah.
It was more ego driven, wasn't it? He wanted to get rid of all of Jack's.
Like get rid of?
Yeah. All of Jack's, you know, any involvement he had in any branding, I think. So it was a vanity project.
Yeah. It's like, hey, you know, I like the word X. I want to have a company called X. And then a few years later, he buys Twitter and goes, that'll be X. But like, cool. But like, maybe if you really like X, have it as a holding company. Just don't ruin the Twitter thing, you know?
Yeah, and also like when you tweet, you're tweeting. You're not Xing, are you?
He said he changed it to posting, so you're posting now. But even on stage once, he used the word tweet. Like he's confused. Yeah. I do feel we'll see the life of Twitter as a brand again.
Oh, really?
I think it'll be rebranded. I think it's Twitter.
Yeah, it is Twitter, and it always will be. Right. So Snapchat, we're talking a lot of tech today. Snapchat's Dubai office has been affected. They've cut 10% of staff globally. We don't know exactly how many people have been affected here. It's about 500 employees globally. Snap has about 5,000 employees globally. Sorry. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, basically, they said it's because of a drop in revenue. They've had unsuccessful products. We've seen it over the years. The AR glasses, the selfie drones. They had a good quarter last year, Q3. They had a bit of a growth in revenue. But overall, I feel like maybe they need like a Saudi investor or something. You know, the UAE is going to save Western media. Maybe Saudi can save Snapchat. I mean, it's so successful in Saudi, isn't it?
Yeah, there've been a lot of talks. I think Ali bin Talal was involved originally. I'm not sure. I know there's lots of different talks. There's probably some cash somewhere. It's a public company now, so there are obviously regional shareholders in Snap. You bring Snapchat up to people in Asia or other markets and they don't know it exists. Like in the youth in England, they don't know of Snap. Like the biggest city in the world outside the US is Riyadh. The third biggest city in the world is Jeddah, like of Snapchat. So, you know, how big is it? The monthly active users are there 200 million or so, right? Like TikTok's up at 2 billion. You know, it puts things into perspective. I think that the funny thing about Evan Spiegel, not the funny thing, but the interesting thing is he didn't do growth at all costs. There were some features at the very start of Snap. I think the book is called Why Turn Down 3 Billion or something like that. But there's some product growth features. Something Bobby is his co-founder. And imagine living in a classroom, right? And originally on Snap, your profile would show your points. and the amount of points you get is how many people message you.
Yeah.
So it showed how popular you were. So people would, so it was addictive because people would snap all the time.
Yeah.
So encourage usage. And he thought that was unhealthy and that would provide anxiety to less popular people in the classroom. So he killed the feature.
Yeah.
Zuckerberg would never have killed that feature.
Yeah.
Something that's addictive to repeat usage. But Spiegel decided that I don't want something that's toxic and providing anxiety in the workplace. And Zuckerberg was up in court, up in the Senate last week, talking about this, of how he apologized for harming to parents, to harming kids and things. So it's really interesting that product features and growth is all cost. So I have a lot of respect for how Evan Spiegel makes product decisions, but obviously it's a cost of, and it contradicts what I said earlier, that it needs a Zuckerberg. But Spiegel is a good custodian of the Snap brand. He hasn't given up to whims. He's changed the product, and then it didn't work, and now he's kind of got it back a bit. We use Snapchat, plug to our shows like Kessler Social Media in Saudi. We have 7 shows on Snap, and it is very sad because the team behind engaging with content creators in the region, some of that team in Dubai lost their jobs,
right?
And it's very sad because these are kind of people who help build the Arabic content on Snap, you know?
Absolutely. I mean, everything comes at the price of everything else, right? You want to have a clear conscience and not have an addictive product, but then people lose their jobs, and it's a double-edged sword.
True.
And even with Zuckerberg, they just paid their first dividends to investors. He was apologizing at Senate. It was not really a genuine apology. It did not seem like that to me, especially he speaks in a very robotic way, doesn't he? So it was just felt very scripted.
Yeah.
I'll respect to Evan, but you know what? I feel like Snapchat maybe could have succeeded, perhaps as a dating app, if it had evolved a little bit more versus a social media platform.
I mean, they rebranded. They said they're a camera company at one point.
Yeah.
But they're actually a messaging app, and messaging is a utility. And then where do messaging apps go in the future? They become super apps. So it depends. They can, this is the thing that product founders make these strategic decisions and things like that. Subscription. Snap had pushed a lot lately into Spotlight, which is the shorts thing.
Yeah.
So their competitor obviously is TikTok and Reels and YouTube Shorts, and they're all at that game right now.
They're too late in the race, though, right? They kind of missed the boat on that one with TikTok and Instagram. Are they? They're not really competing at the same.
Maybe. I think you can go. I think you can start these things at different times and be successful. Like Instagram were behind. You had a point last week about the guy in TikTok saying that he's late on AI.
Yeah.
But if he starts now and gets it right, in 3 years' time, it won't be seen as late. It's the ones that never get it right are the ones that are perennially late.
Perhaps. But I still do think that maybe Evan is not, cutthroat enough for social media. Like, for example,
You say that.
What
did the guys
who... enough because I truly like social media is so toxic, right? And you really have to be cutthroat. And I just feel like, I interviewed Ayman Hariri a few years ago, and he kind of
Remind me who he is.
Ayman Hariri, he's the son of the former Lebanese Prime Minister, Rafiq Hariri. And he has
not the son who's who's the Prime Minister?
Saad. Okay. Yeah, it's
he was,
the former Prime Minister, No,
Ayman
wants nothing to do with politics. He has his own, he does several investments in tech, and he has his own social media platform called Vero. But it's not doing that well, right? I mean,
never heard of it.
Yeah, you've never heard of it, right? Which means it's not doing well. Sorry, Ayman. He's a good friend, but and his point was that he doesn't want to create an addictive social media platform. He wants to create a healthy social media platform. But people do love vices, don't they? We don't go on Instagram because it's healthy.
Yeah.
People like to show off. They like controversy. They like, doing things that are bad for them. That's why people smoke and people like to go out late and,
Yeah, I think it's also like, they talk about these apps being addictive and dopamine and things like that. But I agree with you in a way that, like, people say Spiegel is an innovator, like Steve Jobs, and that, he's a product genius, right? Because some of the features that he did, like even going early with vertical video, like way back, and some of the things that he did was really good. But I agree with you. There was times when I was using Snap and I was kind of like, why aren't they allowing me to have multiple accounts? Like, why aren't they?
Exactly.
If they have 5,000 employees and let's say half of them are engineers, why is their product feature rolled out? I remember saying this to the Snap guys when they set up here. They go, how can you say that? Like, Snap is obviously launching those new features. And I'm like, yeah, but they're not moving with the pace. Like Instagram's features move so fast, right? And they kill them early and things like that. Like Snap kill things early, but you're right. Like their metrics that they were measuring weren't the right ones to decide on the right features.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really sad because I do think it had so much potential. People, it still has potential, but I think it does need to be a little bit more cutthroat, unfortunately. That's not a healthy take, but it is what it is.
Product market fit, like it doesn't even have to be unhealthy features. Like again, we've talked about
just
this.
addictive, yeah.
Yeah, well, I believe digital is a net good. I think communication, and I think it is a big mission statement for Facebook, but it's to make the world more open and connected. And then they want democracy online, and then it causes fraud in elections or whatever. Yeah, right. But I think you do both things. I think you lead with that, and then you go, okay, how do I put safe things in like YouTube do? How do I put parental guidance? How do I turn the comments off? Absolutely. So I think if you're good at the growth hacking thing, then you can be also good at the protection.
Yeah, I agree. Right, moving on to a topic that I've always struggled with, expenses. Do you actually put in your expenses? Are you one of the people who does that? Or have you ever done that?
No, I'm not. Over the years, I would always pay out of my own pocket and naively. Like if I felt my team in London or when I was with the teams in Lebanon and here in the early days, I would do entertainment because I would feel like I wouldn't feel right about expensing that or whatever. Because, with expenses, like the company needs to decide what, and in our company in Augustus, we say, if there's a business interest, if the business needs you to be there, or if the business sees this as a cost, then not only should you put it in, the business should make sure that they're asking about that and paying for it.
Yeah.
Otherwise they don't really know the true costs of running their business.
Exactly, and I completely agree with you. But apparently, even in those companies where the taxis, because mostly people's expenses are on travel, transportation like taxis, etc. Right? So apparently, at least 35% of the UAE's workforce is losing over $3,500 a year, which is 13,000 dirhams. In lost expenses. Why? One of the main reasons is that the filing system is too complex. Now, I'm not going to lie. I've been there, to be honest. I haven't put in expenses, not because it didn't warrant me putting them into the filing system. It's just it really is too complex.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's a pain. To do
Has this
that.
a research by some expense software, HR software company?
Absolutely. So,
of course, they would say that, right? We've got the solution.
Exactly.
Save you 15,000 dirhams a year or 13,000.
It's a UAE-based spend management platform called PIMO, which is a weird name. Not that great.
PEMO, isn't it?
PEMO? I don't know.
I think it's one of those fintech people that raise money.
Yeah.
HR, sorry.
Yeah.
It's like Palm HR, one of those.
Yeah. So basically 24% of people don't submit their expenses because they don't have time. 21% don't have admin support. Other reasons include lost receipts, inputting errors, and inaccurate submissions. I just thought it was an interesting topic to talk about because running a company also, how do you decide, what is worth expenses, putting in as an expense and not. So I'm curious, what do you think is worth, should it be, in order for businesses to kind of, maintain,
it's like
because you can spend
policies.
a lot.
Yeah.
You can spend a lot. I mean, I remember there's a media company. I'm not gonna name it. Okay, I'll name it Vice. I remember people used to take out a lot of clients for dinners and these big booze ups and have, I remember, I can't remember the exact number, but there was one receipt that just went viral. And it was a client dinner, but it was just shots.
Yeah.
It was at a club. It was absolutely mental.
Yeah. Yeah, I think previously on the Dubai Works, we interviewed a lot of fintech platforms, and people identify, like this research shows, is that there's a an issue here with admin and fintech and expenses. There's a lot of corporate cards now that are on the back of credit cards that give staff members, and you top it up and they can know they can use that. I do think there's a policy around it. So Vice should have a policy. They probably didn't. Or they probably,
and that's why they're facing issues now, right?
Bankruptcy in certain markets, yeah, or well, in general, but like, yeah, I think, different reasons. Obviously, revenue and media is hard, but I think, in general, right, like, what do big companies call this? Something T&E? Yeah, travel and expenses or something like that. So they have budgets, right? And as well as letting go people like SnapApp, some people cut back on expenses and some people might make it harder for people to submit their expenses. I think like as a rule, like the cost of doing business, if I'm getting on an airplane, then if I'm getting in a car or a taxi or an airplane, other than my salary, which is proportionate of transport to the office, if I'm getting somewhere and that business needs me to be physically somewhere, then it's on them. And everything associated to that should be on them.
Yeah.
But I think that's very clear to me. Like if you gave me 100 scenarios, I would probably, in terms of our employee manual and what it says about expenses, I would probably get 99 of them right. Now, whether people upload and whether it's reimbursed or whatever, generally I think that happens well here. But then the other part of it is like, how can people abuse expenses? Like I was in an office in London once that it had a rule that if you stay till 7, you can expense your dinner and expense your taxi home. And black cabs in London aren't cheap.
Yeah.
So people would like, organize the 5-a-side football game outside at like 5:30, or they would chill at their desk and just do some admin.
Yeah.
And then at 7 o'clock, and then at 6:30 have their takeaway food at the desk, and then at 7 o'clock getting a black cab home. And people think they're being smart. People think like taking advantage of company policy for your own self-good is smart. It's not. It's like I know in Ireland there was and in other countries, when ministers abuse expenses, they think they're being smart, but they get found out by the media, and they're people's taxes pay for those expenses.
Yeah, exactly.
And the other thing is like, say there's 90 people in this company, say 90 people abuse the expense system. At some point, like Vice and like Snapchat, we're going to have to let people go. Like, I know people at Snapchat who have taken advantage of certain situations in that company regarding different things like education for kids and different stuff.
Yeah. Right.
And they'll think, oh, that's Evan's problem and the tech thing. That's why they're letting go people. It's also because you're not putting the business viability first. You're putting yourself first. You're abusing the situation, and there are consequences. No such thing as a free lunch.
Absolutely. And then, you blame the company, and then you want companies to treat employees better. Well, then don't take advantage of that. And also, I don't understand how people can spend money that isn't yours, because I feel like if you are taking advantage of a certain expense and ordering a black cab or whatever, technically you're taking money that isn't yours. You're spending it on the black cab. You're not supposed to do that. I don't know. I never got the concept of that. It's like when you owe someone money, but you go out for dinners and you buy yourself a Rolex, and then there's a guy that you borrowed money from. Technically, you're spending his money, aren't you, buying that Rolex? And anyways, we'll talk about people owing people money on the next episode tomorrow. Stay tuned. Hopefully we'll have an exclusive for you.
Okay, Lovena's got something cooking, yeah?
Yes, I do, very much.
Okay, cool. I think, cool. I think we had a good old chat today.
Yeah, we did. We'll continue tomorrow. Hopefully you'll be with us tomorrow as well?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
I think so. Check the diary, but I'll come as often as I can.
Okay, thanks. No, I love our chats, Richard. Really enjoy them. Okay, guys, please watch us on Splashy TV. It's our streaming platform. It's only 18 dirhams a month. It's not going to break the bank. Go for it. You'll get value for your money. We have lots of shows.
Or try to expense it as like knowledge in the workplace. Try and put it on the corporate credit card.
What a great point. What a great point. Love it.
Our producer's laughing. Yeah.
And then also listen to us wherever you get your podcasts, and Rami, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.